Yeah, it's the Mike Scully Show. Worldwide, we talk sports, life, and a little bit of politics. Till it ain't fun no more. Let's go. Big man in the booth, watch him set the tone. Got the fighting ill eye running through his bones. Big 10 trenches, yeah, he made his name. Now he running this game, put respect on his name. They take shots trying to knock him to the floor, but he's too big, too strong, boy, check the score. Took the hits, took the bruises, but he still stand tall. Like Phil with the wedge, Tiger lining up the ball. Yeah, it's the Mike Scully Show worldwide. Big man running the game, let them all testify. Hot takes, real talk, no lies. Swinging like a champ, we ain't ever getting sidelined. Shout out the Hebrew Hammer, dropping truth like a sermon. Every take he deliver, got him shook, make him learning. Tricks, picks from the Bama side. He call it like he see it, put the numbers to the grind. Hillbilly from West Virginia, always keep it trill. Moonshine wisdom, got that old school feel. We debate till the clock run out, then laugh at the politics, cause it ain't worth the bout. It's the Mike Scully Show worldwide. Big man running the game, let them all testify. Hot takes, real talk, no lies. Swinging like a champ, we ain't never getting sidelined.
God, I love that. Well, hello, that's sports great fans, and welcome to NFL 365. We keep talking about it. The boys are in Indianapolis for the Combine, and here to discuss all of the findings and skills and all those things those boys are doing right now. I got my man from the hills of West Virginia, from the headlines of Hillbilly Network News. What do you got for me there this week, Mr. Sean O'Rourke?
Well, Mr. Scully, I am tip-top, and I got to apologize to you and the boys. I was a little late on my 5-bullet-point email on what I did for the show last week, so I'm glad you guys are letting me still participate. So.
Elon is looking for you. And with me, my ride or die from day one, my boy from University of South Alabama. What do you say, Trickster?
How are you, sir? Love that intro.
How good is that?
That was very nice, Gentry.
I think
Great
my kids
job.
are going to love that.
I don't know why they wouldn't.
I mean, the heavy metal one last week was pretty solid, but Gentry and the boys have
I think he outdid himself.
It. Yeah. And our man, the Hebrew Hammer, my man Elliot Sikowski is in town. What do you say, brother?
Still celebrating the true north.
Okay.
A little victory the other night. So
well, I was thinking of you last night, though. I know we're going to get into it with college basketball, though. With the buzzer beater, holy smokes!
Yeah, that
Michigan State half court dropping that son of a buck.
Kick me in the Jimmy.
Well, gentlemen, it has been a few decades since I was invited to be in Indianapolis, part of the scouting combine, coming out of Illinois, and that is from a player standpoint, depending on what level you're at. You know, I was grinding trying to get my opportunity to play in the National Football League. It was a stressful 3 days for me. But you watch what's going on now. Certain levels of certain players don't work out, do this thing. But the origination of the week was basically to get a deep dive medical on the players. Like we'll use Abdul Carter, for example, Penn State, coming off some injuries, but has a stress reaction. We're still trying to figure out what
is the reaction? I've heard of a stress fracture.
A reaction is the precursor to a fracture. No, the fracture hasn't occurred yet.
Is that just a nice way of calling a chunky girl pleasantly plump?
No.
Okay. Just
It
asking
is-
for a friend.
It is when I was in the boot. What 2 years ago? When I was 3 years ago, whatever it was, my foot wasn't broken, but it's a repetitive use injury that had I continued down that path, a fracture would have occurred.
A microfracture or a fracture?
Well, most people think the microfracture, the knee injury that Mari Stoudemire had. This is it's just an overuse repetitive injury, usually on the foot kind of thing, just from too much compression, too much, whether it's jumping, leaping, whatever may be. And I'm not saying I'm the athletic type, but whatsoever, but these things do occur.
So she's just big bone.
Stay on that bone.
Stay on that
Stay
bone.
on that bone.
But no, that's the genesis of the whole deal. I mean, I remember they were going crazy because of my finger, my damn pinky. That got stuck in a certain Michigan player's helmet one time. But we won't digress into that story. But they want to get the medical on you. They get the player interviews, find out. You know, I listened to Pat's show earlier when he had Coach Harbaugh on yesterday. Jim Harbaugh, not John.
Yes.
And what they're looking for in the Chargers. They had the Chargers GM in with him as well. And when they sit down with the kids, they just want to know, how much do you love football? Do you love playing football? Or is this a sideshow for you? They don't want the sideshow guys. They want the guys that.
What type of talent, though, do you have to have for it just to be a sideshow? When you're talking millions of dollars in a career, I don't think, I mean, from the outside looking in, I don't think anyone that is at the combine is there for a sideshow.
Well, let me ask you a question, and I'll put it to this way. Shedeur Sanders is a sideshow. Unbelievable talent, but he's a sideshow. Posts with the watch after the game. It's all about his social media. It's all about creating that. Harbaugh does not want to get wrapped up into that BS. He wants guys that are going to get in the weight room, put the time in, study the film, and go out and play physical, hard, demanding football. They don't want the sideshow. Now, there are, Dallas, I believe, is a destination that God love Jerry. After his landman appearance, I have a whole new respect for him.
True.
But they're a sideshow team.
Well,
and that's why they haven't been in an NFC championship game since, 1996?
I'll give you another example. The 76ers this year, I know different sport and whatnot, but Paul George just announced he is suspending his own podcast to not be a distraction as they come down the playoffs. You've been a distraction all season.
Right.
Why now?
Yeah.
I'm not going to be a distraction. That's the stuff they don't
That's the social media. Like I said
if
last
it's
week,
about the name on the back, not the name on the front.
Exactly.
That's what they don't want.
They don't want that. So, they get into it. Now they're getting into the interviews are over. The physicals have been taken on certain position groups. Now they get into the bench press. You and I talked in the green room before the show about the 225. Why aren't they just doing a max to see how much
Why
you
don't
can
they do
push?
both? Because, I care about what the guy can push out of the side as opposed to how many times he can do 225, meaning it's important. I understand endurance. I get it. But I'd rather have someone that can push 800 out of the way than someone that can do 225 50 times.
Yeah, my joints nowadays are beat because of the 690 squat and the 530 bench.
Well, there you go.
But
that may go to your point about the sumo wrestler versus
Micah Parsons.
Micah Parsons. We talked about that in the green room before we came in about the sumo wrestler stopped Micah, but Scully, what was your immediate comment after that?
He can't play another play.
He can't play another
play.
play.
Gets one set of downs and he's one series and he's done.
Yeah.
I'll bet on Micah all day.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it's easy when someone's saying, okay, push through me, not I'm going to run around you. Sumo wrestling ain't going to be able to do that.
Right.
And then the record for the 40 was set last year by your boy from the Kansas City Chiefs, Xavier Worthy.
Yep.
They say the only one who has the chance to maybe beat it this year is actually the wide receiver from Texas. His name escapes me right now, but he could threaten the 4.21 combine record. I mean,
and you could see it on the field with Worthy how much faster he was than everybody else. Now, granted, a strong wind tackled him, but if you couldn't get a hand on him, that dude was gone.
Yeah, my two placements at the combine are hilarious because I did 27 reps in the bench press, and then was followed by Al Noga from Hawaii, who did 44.
Ah,
wow.
So it made me look like a weak ass pussy. And then I had to run the 40 after Randall McDaniel, Hall of Famer from Arizona State, played for the Minnesota Vikings forever, ran a 4.6 or 4.7, and I ran my 5.0, and I looked like I needed a freaking sundial.
You were like a Mustang 5.0. Vanilla Ice sung about you.
Oh, there were a couple kids today that I just saw as we were waiting for the show to start, over 325 pounds that ran under 5 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, bodies that large should not be moving.
I was happy. I think I weighed in at 304 for the combine and ran a 5.0.
346 pounds, runs a 4.98.
Yeah. I was just hoping for something with a 4 in the front, but it didn't get it. So,
although the Barstool guys are doing their own combine today.
Yeah.
And watching some of those guys run, it is
awful. Rich Eisen's going to run his 40-yard dash too. He's done it for 20 years.
Yep.
Well, I believe he's raised over $7 million by doing it.
But he's also now high 50s at this point.
Yeah.
Oh,
I couldn't run a 5.0 now, and I'm in my high 50s.
I feel very confident in the four of us. I would place at least second, if not first.
Yeah. But I thought one of the.
I'll give you your 10-second or 10-yard dash maybe on the 40. I don't think so.
Yeah. So I wish the kids luck. One of the great quotes of the day, Travis Hunter. young lady reporter asked him, "Are you going to return punts and kicks in the league?" He looked right at her and said, "I already have 2 jobs. I can't do 4." You can see if he plays both ways. But he's only doing, I believe, defensive drills this week. He's not running routes.
I thought he was going to get drafted as a receiver. He changed.
Yeah, I think he's working on the DB side this week for the combine. So he's not running any routes.
But how much of the combine is potentially overrated? As an Eagles fan, Mike Mamula got drafted, and I think it was the 89 draft by the Eagles, where looked phenomenal in gym shorts, could not play in pads.
Well,
There's plenty of tape on these kids that if you need to see Travis Hunter work out as a wide receiver during the combine, then you're in the wrong league.
We had a defensive line coach at Illinois that I'll never forget. He ended up coaching in the National Football League forever. His name's Bill Kohler. And Bill played on the John McKay Buccaneers that went 0-16 or 0-14, whatever it was. But he was great. But he used to have a saying, "Look at that son of a bitch. Looks like Tarzan. Plays like Jane." So,
nice.
God bless Bill Kohler.
That's the thing in the NFL. The tape doesn't lie.
Right.
Well,
it tells you what you do really good and what you do really shitty.
Well, but even the teams that are, you're 1-14 or 2-13, whatever it is, that's why you still see where we as fans are going, tank the season, get the better draft pick. You see, I don't care if it's the last quarter or the last game, these guys are still killing themselves because the tape doesn't lie.
You got to put it on tape. A lot of it will go back to tape.
And they're playing for next year. I mean, let's be honest. That's what they're doing.
Especially, and maybe not the Aaron Rodgers of the world or the guys that have 15
but usually
years,
they're playing the last game that are out of the playoffs. It's usually your second and third string that are playing anyway.
Correct.
And the one thing that's changed over the years too, back in my era, the combine was the deal. Now they have all of these pro days at the schools.
They're in their home field, throwing balls to people they know.
And those have become so important.
Although, is that more quarterback driven than any other
quarterback,
position?
receiver?
Okay.
It's the offensive and defensive linemen, I think, want to go do, because you're going to do your bench press, you're going to do your vertical and
40.
your broad jump and your 40, and then you're going to do some drills, and the shuttle drill was always the big one. They wanted to see how you moved laterally and then backpedaling. So,
but I would think that things like offensive, defensive line drills don't necessarily matter as much timing of others, where quarterback, wide receiver, that is all about timing and rhythm with your quarterback.
They want to see exactly.
And those different things make a difference.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and the big thing is right now, Cam Ward, Shedeur, who's the number 1 quarterback. Now you're here, our guy from Ole Miss, Jackson Dart's moving up.
Well, yeah, because he's going to get more film at their level.
You're going to have somebody that's going to be the one that's all of a sudden becomes the late hot prospect because they've done something either at a pro day or the combine.
That was Chris Johnson, the running back. I mean, he was known, but until he ran that crazy 40-yard dash, he wasn't as high up the leaderboard, if you will, until he did it.
One of the greatest Gus Johnsonisms. He's got get away from the cop speed.
Yes, he does.
So Scully, I want to follow up on Elliot's question for you as an athlete. What was more pressure? I think going into that, the drills shouldn't have been that stressful. We know what we're going to be able to do. Was it the interviews that were a little more? Because
no, the interviews.
Are you kidding? This dude can talk his way out of almost anything. The interviews couldn't have been a problem.
Yeah, but I think we've all been around sports our entire lives, and listen, there's guys that are great athletes and they're dumber than a box of rocks.
Right.
I mean, they're gonna sift that out.
They say at least 10 times an interview. I've seen it.
The interviews were for me were fun because you got to meet some of the gentlemen that you kind of grew up idolizing. I got to meet the Joe Gibbs of the worlds, those type of things, Marty Schottenheimers. That was the fun part. It was I think the most pressure thing was where they went and made you stand up on a stage in your underwear and look at your body.
Well, and back in your day, no offense, they didn't have the boxer briefs. No, you were straight tighty whities or boxers.
I was in straight tighty whities.
Oh no, I was hoping you were in boxers. For the love of God, man.
Gentry, can you pull a picture?
Yeah. There's one out there somewhere.
Cut a potato in half.
Yeah. So it was, and they parade you around, but it was cool. The stress of it. My one story I'll tell you, stress wise. Chris Spielman. I played against him for 3 years when I was at Illinois when he was at Ohio State. Chris was a phenomenal linebacker, but he didn't run a really good 40 at the combine. And I remember coming out of my hotel room, and I was going to go to dinner with Paul Gruber and a bunch of the old linemen, and he was sitting in the hotel kind of off in the rocks, and he was just beside himself because he thought he'd lost an opportunity to be drafted higher than he ended up being. And you either can play or you can't.
Right.
And Chris Spielman could flat out play. I mean, that linebacking core they had at Ohio State at that time with Spielman, Pepper Johnson, and Eric Kummerow. Kummerow was a first-round pick of the Dolphins. Johnson was a first-round pick of the Giants. I mean, that was, the Buckeyes were loaded back then. I mean, Chris Carter was on that team. A couple Hall of Famers in that group. But
Ohio State.
Yeah, watching the stress of somebody with that talent, what he was going through, because he didn't perform to the level that he expected of himself, I think is the key to obviously it's the key what drives you to be successful.
But to your point about players can play, look at Zach Thomas from Miami.
Exactly.
Dude
Undersized.
5 foot nothing, but he would dock you in the next week.
Yeah.
And that's not seen in a 40-yard dash. That's not seen in a bench press. That's not seen in lateral movement.
Well, playing your reads, doing your homework. Zach Thomas could identify a play when the team broke the huddle. His instinct for being in the right place was incredible.
Right.
And he finally gets in the
part
hall.
of where you see so many of these commentators and who's moving up the draft board, down the draft board, things like that. There is a lot of groupthink that once you hear it on ESPN or Fox News, and all of a sudden, right, that becomes gospel. And a lot of people just go, oh, yeah, he's climbing. Whereas certain teams know exactly what they're looking for, have a philosophy of drafting. Not to keep saying how great the Eagles are, but they've been killing it.
They've been just going down and sitting down with Kirby Smart and saying, okay, is this kid
so then why didn't everybody else do it?
We've all seen the movie Draft Day.
I give him credit. I'm saying.
Elliot, we've all seen the movie Draft Day. Not everyone can be Kevin Costner and pull that off.
Yeah, you pancake eating. Well, let's jump from the combine and get in. Free agency starts. You've got the franchise tag deadlines coming up here. A couple of big things. One of the things we talked about last week when we talked about Aaron Rodgers, and we thought, was the locker room, is he a locker room killer?
Cancer, I think was the word we used.
But it came out that the players were twisted that the Jets are walking away from him. Quinnen Williams, it's come out and it's
this
been
week
that they were really upset.
Well, I know 2 wide receivers that are.
Yeah.
Well, Scully, I got to
But
ask
it goes, I'm going to jump on you for 1 second. It goes to what you sent me earlier in the week about the grades of the management.
Yes.
What was the only team that got an F?
That was
Jets.
the New York Jets were 30.
Jets.
They were 32 out of 32.
Yeah.
And I think the question I would have for you is being in a lot of locker rooms, there's guys that are rah guys. There's guys that, are getting in everybody's face. But, and I know Elliot, you pointed out that you felt that Aaron was a cancer last week, but he seems to strike me as someone that is humble, and he teaches the other players around him what he's learned over his years in the league. And I think maybe that's where this is coming from.
You really described him as humble.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say
that dude is anything but humble. He's one of the most arrogant people I think I've ever seen.
I'm talking about in the locker room. I'm talking about in the locker room.
I'm a big Aaron Rodgers fan. Just going back to his Pack race, but you also have to look at his NFL upbringing. I mean, he was treated like a piece of shit by Brett Favre. Brett Favre didn't want to share, didn't mentor.
Well, that was back in the day when you did that. You're not getting my job, rookie. Sit down and hold the clipboard.
I know that, but he waited almost 5 years, I believe.
And you know what? I think it made him the quarterback he was.
Oh, sure.
Look at, with the exception of Troy Aikman, every quarterback, for the most part, that gets thrown into the fire fizzles out. And they could have been really good, but because they got thrown into the fire, but he had 5 years to wait, and he became great that he is.
Roethlisberger, Elway, they all... Come on, man.
Peyton Manning,
yeah.
Okay, you just named me 3.
Well, Peyton Manning.
There's 4.
Yeah, what everybody forgets is Peyton Manning broke a record for interceptions by a rookie quarterback.
Oh, and Troy Aikman went 1 in 15.
Yeah, and got his head beat in.
Yeah, yes, it wasn't until Irvin and Emmett came.
I think I've said it on the show before. Derek Carr's older brother, when he was drafted by the Texans, he was a talent and could play, but that son of a bitch is still shell-shocked looking over his shoulder because they had nobody protecting him.
It goes back to organization, coaching, philosophy,
totally
culture.
Agree.
All of that makes a difference. I don't think it matters. I don't say it doesn't matter, but it reduces what your talent is, because you have to be an extreme talent to even get to that level.
100%. But you four just fired at me, all Hall of Famers. Everyone you just named were all Hall of Famers. Steve Young, Hall of Famer, who had to sit behind Montana. Look how well he did.
Look at Darnold, was a disaster at the Jets, getting thrown into the fire.
Right.
Had to hop around and now look, it had
He
has had a couple of great years.
Some experience behind him.
The question is, are they going to franchise tag him, or is he going to?
Well, I think he's hit, but again, between Rodgers, him, and Stafford, they're the first dominoes that have to fall. That once those fall, now
Stafford's the domino that's got to go first.
Oh, and didn't the Rams screw the pooch, man, letting him go out to find his market value with other teams? Stafford?
No,
I think he found out this weekend what his market value is.
Oh, and it is not. Same thing with your boy, Barkley, the Giants. Yeah, no one's going to pay you that money. Wait, what? That's what happened to the Rams and Stafford. They didn't think anyone would pay a 37-year-old quarterback.
But they have
that
him
much
under
money.
contract. They say, go find your market. If you said someone's going to pay you more than we will, then great, we'll trade you.
Exactly. That's why
but
they
that
want
was
to
your
do
point.
it, but it still blew up in their face because they don't want to get rid of him.
But
They
that was
just
your
didn't want
point.
to pay him.
But that was your point last week was at least get something for him as opposed to letting him walk.
100%. But I think you could go about getting something for him as opposed to letting him go test the waters to know what you have to pay him now if you want to keep him. That perception was out there, whether he verified it or not. The perception was there. You could have traded without getting that perception with no problem. Now you are pigeonholed in the fact that if you want to retain him, which I think they do,
deep
it's gonna
down,
cost
I
them
believe
a
they
hell
do.
of a lot more money.
But
Correct.
that goes back to philosophy and culture. The Eagles are notorious for signing players early before the market gets set.
Mm-hmm.
So they got Hurts, even though they're paying him a lot of money. He's now actually undervalued in his contract.
I think the quarterback position you can do that with 100%.
You can, but you look at where the Cowboys are now. They got to sign Dak. They've got to sign Parsons. And who's their other big third
Lamb.
CD Lamb that you're
I
now
think
so
Lamb
stuck.
got signed last year.
Yeah, they're
Lamb and Prescott got signed, but two ginormous deals. So it's just going to cripple their line, cripple their defensive line. It's going to not be good.
What I don't think you guys know is Matthew Stafford accidentally ran into Tom Brady at a Montana ski resort
at a very exclusive Montana.
They both own homes there.
Yes, so there was no collusion.
No collusion
going on there, but yes, they just happened to run into each other.
Well, I think the more interesting thing is what's going to happen with Kirk Cousins. $27 million as a backup quarterback. I mean, I think
way more than that.
They got to cut him. I think he's
going
to have a roster bonus next week. I think, right? Scully, don't roster bonuses.
He's got to be on the roster March 1st.
They've already said they're keeping him as a backup quarterback.
Yeah. That's insane. I mean, you want to talk about culture and
right. Well, that was you sign $180 million quarterback and then draft a first round quarterback.
Like that was the part that made
makes no sense at all.
That I agree. And when we said it, we're like, well, that's the Falcons, which is why I picked them to go under, which they did.
And you were 100% right. But you look at the difference between Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins, or the way they played. I thought Rodgers flashed a little bit more of the old Aaron towards the end. I think he was finally healed. I don't think Kirk Cousins was right from his Achilles surgery all year. I don't
Which
think
makes signing him to a $180 million guarantee is
even
dumb.
Was dumb.
Desperate move.
I totally agree.
But if you're going to be desperate and you're going to sign him for that, then you don't draft a quarterback.
Correct.
I agree.
Sign a 1 year. If you think you're going to draft a quarterback, you sign a 1 year stopgap, and or sign him to a 2 year outrageous numbered contract. Yeah. So that way you're limited what you got, and you've got a quarterback you could draft and then develop them.
Here's the interesting thing. Trick, you're talking about Matthew. If the Raiders pull this off and get Matthew Stafford, I wouldn't be surprised to see Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams slide into the Rams.
That's what I
said. With Cooper Kupp being gone.
Rodgers to the Rams.
You never know. Well, the one thing we learned before we came into studio, even before we talked about it in the green room, is that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift have signed on for their 13th season.
Although allegedly she's not going to any more games because the Eagles were mean to her and booed her. She didn't like that. But again, don't have political stances and people won't boo you.
Okay. Well, she's an Eagles fan. I mean, prior to dating.
Apparently, the jersey she was wearing was not green. I might be colorblind, but I know
she
green
was an Eagles
and red.
fan before she started dating.
She's from Philadelphia.
And yet they still booed her, just like they did Santa Claus. At least they didn't throw batteries at her.
That we know of.
So there's a lot to shake out.
Can she spell Eagles?
I'm going to say no.
There's a lot to shake out free agency. We'll talk more about that in the coming weeks. One thing I want to end the first segment, I'm very excited. We've talked about where I told you guys I thought Barstool's best hire was John Gruden.
Oh, brilliant.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers got it right, and they're putting his name back in the Ring of Honor,
yes,
where he belongs.
100%. He got the raw end of that deal.
Absolutely.
No
just
pun
because
intended.
he called tag.
No lube. It was bad.
Well,
he got raw dogged.
Ironically, the Glazers were at the bottom of that list too that I sent you. Tampa Bay
For ownership.
For ownership.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they had Tony Dungy, let him go, and then Gruden comes in and wins
the Super Bowl
with all of Dungy's players.
Yeah, but the Bucks leadership now with Jason Light as their GM is an unbelievable guy. Big fan of Bruce Arians. Known him for a long time. He was a running backs coach with the Chiefs. You know, he retired,
the
but
funny hat, right?
Yeah, but they kept him. He's still involved in the organization at the management level. It was retiring from coaching, so they did the right thing, bringing Coach back, and he is by far.
There you go, Sean.
Yeah.
27th out of 32.
Exactly.
By the way, who was number one? The Eagles because they won the Super Bowl.
You know what? I didn't even look at the top of the list. To be honest with you,
I
was looking at the bottom.
Look at this. Yeah,
the Steelers were 28th, which didn't
Gentry's got it here.
What?
Who's
No,
number one?
that's just alphabetical.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say.
Patrick nearly had an aneurysm.
Someone done effed up. Hey, Ron.
Yeah. So
isn't that interesting? I didn't look at the top of the list. I looked at the bottom.
Right
of
to
the
the bottom.
Yeah, I went right to the bottom.
Who has room for improvement? Oh, Philadelphia won the Super Bowl at 22nd.
Yeah.
Their coach is kind of crazy. Arguing with
Who
fans.
is number one? They put
Stupid like a fox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can pull it. I can pull it up on the break. I got it on my phone.
Well, that's NFL 365. As we go to break, a big shout out to our man Frank Papasadoro at Jan Pro of Southwest Florida. If you need commercial custom cleaning, Frank is the man, and we can get him at 224-239-9333. And we can't do it at the Mike Scully Show without you. Please follow, like, and subscribe to all of our social media, and we'll be back in just a minute. Thank you.
The Mike Scully Show, worldwide, big man running the game, let them all testify. Hot takes, real talk, no lies. Swinging like a champ, we ain't never getting sidelined.
This makes me want to go beat up somebody, Scully.
That is awesome, Gentry.
Or hire someone to beat them up because I can't beat anyone up.
Welcome back to the Mike Scully Show. I love that new song, new entry. That's awesome. Got Patrick dancing over there in his chair. Well, we're going to transition, gentlemen, from the National Football League to college football. A little update on college football. There's actually a lot happening behind the scenes. One of the big things right now that I don't think a lot of people know about is the Big Ten and the SEC are in cahoots.
Collusion.
To try, yeah.
100% collusion. They admit it.
Collusion.
Is it collusion if they tell you about it?
Yeah,
Just
it's
asking
very,
for a
very
friend.
true. But they're talking about forming a super league.
They should.
And then bringing in a couple from the ACC and a couple from the Big 12, and then let everybody else kind of fend for themselves.
Well, I had a friend of mine on that point, Scully, and this is before all the shakedown. This was probably 6 years ago. He's like, March Madness has 64 teams. I don't count the play-ins. And you have 16 brackets.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, if the ACC, the SEC, the Big Ten, and he combined the Pac-12 and the the Pac-10, which is actually Pac whatever, or it was at the time. Focus on me. They're fixing his. There you go. So the Pac-12 and the Big 12 merging and making one and have 16, 16, 16, and that would be your tournament.
Yeah.
Or that would be the tournament for college football, and that's what you would pull out of, and you would come up with the 16 teams.
Okay.
And that was 7 years ago.
7 years ago.
Right.
Well, and Chip Kelly floated an idea out there when he was still the head coach of UCLA, very similar to that, and even taking it, so basically you're breaking down like the NFL.
Yeah.
You have, college football east,
and that
south,
was it. Your
north.
top four out of
Yeah.
each group went and represented your conference, and that was who your teams were.
Well, but we talked about this in the green room before we came out, and I have a problem with this. I think.
Well, as a West Virginia fan, you should.
And I
As
should,
an SEC fan, I
The
think
West by God's
teams.
got no chance.
and this is true. But to my point, I said this to you. I think right now, Scully, they're asking for 4 from the Big Ten automatic bids, 4 from the SEC automatic bids, 2 from ACC, 2 from Big 12. Here's the problem I have with that. Sports is never predictable. You could have next year, we could have 6 teams from the SEC that are deserving and only 1 from the ACC and 1 from the Big 12. Then 3 years from now, you could have 5 teams from the Big 12 that are deserving and only 3 from the SEC. My point is, I don't know why they want to get themselves locked into a number I like the idea that they're going to seed now. They're not going to do the conference champion is just going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. That they're going to actually seed it like the NCAA tournament, men's basketball tournament. So
because you're thinking like a rational human being. You're not thinking of the dollars. It's all about the money. Why does the SEC and the Big Ten want guaranteed 4 spots? Because that guarantees them the money. Why do they not want the Big 12 to be able to get 3rd or 4th or 5th team in there, even if they're having great years? Because it's about the money. And I think same thing about the super leagues. It's about the money. If the SEC and the Big Ten can go, you know what? NCAA, kick rocks. We're going to go do our own thing. We're going to go do our own tournament. Notre Dame, if you want in, we want to pick a couple other schools here and there. Everybody else, what are you going to do? Who are you going to complain to?
And they control the money right now.
Correct. It's all about where the money's coming from and the TV contracts and the revenue.
Well,
that defines everything. 2
points on that to the TV revenue. Ohio State and Notre Dame was not a high-rated national championship game.
No, it was much lower than last year's game.
Because you took this part of the country and football in the South, no one watched because they didn't care because their teams were out. 1. 2, the level of play, sorry, you can say what you want. The ACC, the Big 12, the Pac, if it even exists anymore, it fails in comparison to the level of play of the SEC and the Big Ten. It's not even close. If the Pac-12, or I keep calling them, they're done. If the Big 12 and the ACC had to play Big Ten and SEC like they do year in or week in and week out, their record wouldn't even be sniffing to go to the championship game. Not even close.
Well, there's 2 things I would argue with you on that. Arizona State put up a hell of a game, right?
They lost.
They lost, but I think it was the best game of the whole tournament.
I would actually agree with you.
And I would also argue that Ohio State, if the seeding was done right, I don't think they win the national championship this year.
So who do you think was the best team in the land?
Who do I think was the best team?
Yeah. I'm going to go with the SEC or Big Ten team. It's going to be my guess.
I was going to go with either Georgia or Texas.
There you go. So both SEC, and that's the point that I'm making because they play the schedule they play. Look at basketball.
But your point of the ratings of the championship game,
you have Michigan, Alabama, that would have gone off the rails.
But they're not judging everything based on one game.
Alabama.
It's
or Ohio State.
Alabama. The SEC and the Big Ten deliver ratings week after week after week after week. This is a TV show for, what is it? You got Ohio State played 17 games this year?
I think so.
Right?
Close to it, yeah.
Plus, and then you add the bye week. So you're looking at 18, 19 weeks.
Well, they played an NFL schedule.
Right. You look at 18 to 19 weeks worth of games. You're delivering ratings for the SEC and the Big Ten. And if other conferences could produce those ratings, they'd get a seat at the table. But unless you do.
Yeah. College football screwed up, though, because they went too deep. They went January 20th. We didn't need the gap between the championship week and the first round.
Agreed.
We can adjust the great, pomp and pageantry of the Army-Navy game and put that in its own time slot. But you still need to have the college football playoffs playing that weekend.
Could not agree more because they did drag it out too long.
It was too long.
Here's the funny thing, though. It would be the same amount of time if you went to 16 teams. No one gets a bye.
Well, here's a question I got to ask you guys.
But if you move it up a week, it still ends
the same time.
The third week?
But now you have 16 teams in. Yeah. You're done. You're done. The
question.
But again, if we're going back to part of the money conversation, your top 2 seeds, which are likely going to be a Big Ten and and an SEC champion, those are your likely top 2 seeds.
Yes.
Even though they may be playing cupcakes, still got to win those games. Still got to put the wear and tear on your body.
Correct.
Giving those teams an advantage of potentially make it to the championship. Or multiple more rounds, which generates, again, more revenue.
More revenue.
Is the
But
name
what
of the
was
game.
it that every team that had a bye lost?
Every team had a bye and lost. And what makes March Madness so great? It's
Cinderella.
It's a
Cinderella.
No, everybody loves the Cinderella in week 1. Yes. Nobody watches or cares for the Cinderella in
when
week
George
2.
Mason's in the Final Four.
You were
100% correct. Yes,
that's not true.
Unless you're from that school.
Everybody was rooting for Dunk City when
everybody here was rooting for Dunk City.
and then the matchup.
Nobody cared to see St. Peter's. Nobody cared for Oakland last year. Nobody cared for the Richmond Spiders in the 1995 when they beat Syracuse at 12-15. Nobody cared about any of these teams after look, they upset.
But look, I mean, to get back to my point, what was the best game in the whole entire football tournament?
Arizona State.
The rest of them were what?
And they're going to live with
Which is why if you go to 16 teams, you're going to have a lot of those games.
Right, and they're going to live with 4th and 13 for a long time.
Because, by the way, the number 1 team is playing the number 16 team. Now, it may be a blowout, but I promise you the middle ones will be great games.
Well, it's interesting. I saw somebody pose the theory that the Army-Navy game should be moved to the first game of the season, which I thought was pretty
I believe I
interesting.
threw that out there last week.
Did you really?
I believe that was.
I
The
saw
only
somebody
thing-
else-
I'm not saying
somebody
I'm the
must
first
have been
person
listening
ever
to the show.
I'm not saying I was the first person that ever came up with it, but
I'll kick off the season with it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what
The
I'm talking
only
about.
downside is when I think of Army Navy. By the way, I think it's a great idea. So I'm not throwing rocks. I'm just saying when I think of that game, I think of all the servicemen in their heavy coats with a blizzard coming
Very true.
down,
Well-
snowing. They're all there, and that is what makes the Army Navy game to me.
The other thing that I can't remember exactly who put this out there. It was either first game of the year or Thanksgiving Day.
See, there you go.
Thanksgiving Day. It should be that day.
Or it could be Thanksgiving. Yeah,
Well,
that's-
you've got things. I mean, there are a lot of things.
They've got options they could do.
The Egg Bowl that Mississippi State play
Mhm.
Thanksgiving. There
Not
are
to mention you're up against an NFL schedule.
there, which you're right. The NFL started taking over all that. And
Put it on Friday after Thanksgiving.
you have games.
No one's got
Yeah,
shit
there's
to
already
do.
No,
games
there
on
are
Friday.
a lot of games already on that day.
Right, but my point is you could slot it so it's the prime
It's
game.
the prime game. It's the only game on at 3:00 on Friday
Correct.
afternoon.
You could slot it that
Or
way, and
noon.
then you're not in the way of the NFL because they only play on Thursday.
Right.
I guess we had one this Friday, but I'm pretty sure if you went to the NFL and said, "Hey, we want to move this game," they probably
And
would.
the NFL is going to say kick rocks.
I don't think they would.
Yes, they.
Not if they had the night game and they're the game leading up to it. I think that's even better for the NFL. You've got people watching at 3:30 and it goes straight into the NFL.
But you have not a lot, but a decent number of games that are played on that Friday of college
the
football.
only one I know of. I mean, I agree, but the only one that comes to mind for me is the Egg Bowl.
Well, that's Thursday night.
That's Thursday
Oh,
night.
even better. So see, I don't know any that play on Friday. There's not a traditional game that plays that Friday.
Well,
There
we used,
are.
we used to play
What,
Pitt
what's
on
or what?
Friday.
I can't think of
We
any.
used to-
The backyard brawl used to be there.
Backyard ball used to be on
Used
Friday.
to be. What
Texas
is it now?
Texas
Well,
A&M
that's
usually
because-
has
And that's the
bon-
point I'm making.
Texas
I don't
A&M
know of
usually
any.
used to have their bonfire game. They got rid of the bonfire.
So that
after
doesn't
the-
exist anymore.
Well, no, the
Again-
game is still there. They just don't do the bonfire.
Oh,
anymore.
okay.
There was a couple people died in it.
No, but
Because of collapse of the
there
bonfire.
are some logistics and some spots, but I think there's a good
They
place
can
to
make
put
it work.
them. Yes. Well, let's transition. Stay in the collegiate game. Let's transition to Elliot's favorite, college basketball. Yeah, last night's Maryland. We touched on it in the first segment a little bit, but that bomb for Michigan State, a great scoring game, 59-55.
It was a rock. I think I texted you guys. It was a rock fight.
Yeah, but be
It was a rock
Michigan,
fight.
not Michigan State.
That is a Michigan State
yeah.
normal, game. Well, look, we're averaging 83 points a game, so you hold us down to 55. Michigan State played some tenacious defense. Nobody could get comfortable last night.
Yeah.
And look, Jacoby Gillespie, comes up, lights that shot
I mean,
up.
he wasn't
a
even
second
in
or
the
two
middle of
early.
that. That was almost a three-quarter.
Yeah.
Well,
So, yeah, so I was
what
gonna
were
say-
the,
yeah.
what were the what were the local idiots here
Yes.
in Fort Myers on the radio when we were coming over
Seaman
here
and
going,
Shepherd.
"Oh, that guy put up the
Well,
shot way too quick with
Seaman,
4
no.
seconds to go." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
He shot it too early.
He
So I was
shot
going
it
to
too
ask
early.
you.
He did shoot it
So
too
you
early.
thought he shot it too early?
You thought I shot it too early at 4
Yeah.
seconds to go.
Yes.
Because as it was, the ball came off and he had to shoot almost a three-quarter shot.
It was a second too early. I mean, look, we're nitpicking here.
Right. I thought
I
it
don't-
was laughable.
Well, you want a
4
shot at the
seconds.
rebound,
'Cause
right?
here's the
No,
thing.
no. You want that shot in a perfect world. If we're scripting this perfectly, you want it to where only you could score, or you're going to overtime. That is the only thing you want. Look,
I hear you, but I'd like to have the option for
the.
the putback.
I'm not beating this kid up.
I
for
take
taking
that option.
shot.
And it came off funny.
Right. It came off the front of the rim hard, where if it hits the side, you got a shot
This
for a tip up.
had to. First off, it bounced straight out.
Yep.
The guy's hands were at his chest to catch and immediately shuffle the
Yep.
ball. Everything had to have worked perfectly. And then the kid hits a shot from 3/4 court.
Yeah, in front of the M.
And look, Jacoby Gillespie came out and even said it. I shot it too early. It happens. None of these kids, they're not robots. They're not perfect.
Well, that was a buzzer beater, but you had
I will
some.
tell you this. So this is Maryland's third loss with less than 5 seconds to go this year.
Wow, I didn't
They-
know
they
that.
banked
Well, they blew
one-
the
who
big
was it?
lead on the one.
Well, that was Ohio State. Ohio
Yep.
State bank. They were up 18. Ohio State banks in a 3 with
Yep.
less than 10 seconds to go to take a 3-point lead. Northwestern hit off balance jumper with 0.7 of a second to go to beat this team. This is a game where nobody's happy about losing, but this doesn't take away from how great a year it is, nor this is going to be a very tough team to see in March. And so when
You
you
think
see,
they made the tournament even with the 3 bad?
oh, they're
beats?
well in it. The question is, are they a 4 or 5 seed right now?
Oh, good.
But they had a chance, had they won this game, a chance to go potentially still get a share of the Big Ten title. Now the 3 remaining games, can they get the double bye in the Big Ten tournament? But these are the things, these are the character building things that a coach can go, all right, now we see what we got to clean up, little bits here and there for these really tough games that are coming up.
Wasn't you telling me in a blowout win, real quick, in a blowout win, we see 10 things that are wrong and they see 75 things that are wrong?
Yeah.
And a blowout loss.
Correct. Yeah. This is, it's blowout loss. You burn the tape most of the time. There's nothing you're going to learn from that. From a tape like this, you're going to learn a lot. There's a lot that you're going to be able to coach.
Did you expect a bigger game from Queen last night? I did.
So in part, they couldn't get the ball in the post or get their big guys touches early. Michigan State had such tremendous hedging on their ball, and both sides, both teams, nobody could get comfortable offensively. There was absolutely no flow. There was no movement of the ball, and that's the defensive pressure from both teams made it unbelievable. Like I said, they averaged 83 points a game. The fact Michigan State held them to 55 is just tremendous defense. You tip your cap to them and say, guys, they were better than us tonight. Our big guys did not come and score. We had one guy who scored 20-plus points, Rodney Rice, and he's the only reason that kept us in the game.
Nobody wants to face these two teams in the tournament.
No.
You had a couple of big bubble watch wins over the weekend. North Carolina, Indiana, who am I missing? Georgia with their upset over
Arkansas
Florida.
beating Texas, which was bubble on bubble right there.
Yep.
Kentucky at Oklahoma, a road win. Vandy over A&M as a road win, really big time. But this is where you're seeing the differences, again, from the Big Ten and the SEC. Not that we want to be sounding like homers after coming off the football talk like that. Almost every game is a quad one game.
Mm-hmm.
So these teams that are on the bubble build their resume. They don't have to win out to do that. Whereas some of these other teams in the other conferences, you lose one or two of these games and your bubble's bursting.
Well, you got the slate coming up this weekend. You got a couple games tonight, but you got the big slate for the weekend. You got Auburn at Kentucky. You got Texas Tech.
Take the over.
Texas Tech at Kansas. Arizona is going to Iowa State. West by God is at BYU.
Which I'll tell you this: Iowa State
are imploding.
But they were missing two of their best players, one for illness, one for injury.
They're coming
in
back
the last couple games. So a lot of people are going to be down on them.
They're imploding, but if they're out,
okay,
but that's people out. That's
the thing. People are going to be saying, "Look at them, they're imploding. They're not playing well. They just lost to Houston in this top 10 matchup. They haven't been playing well." Well, yeah, if you're missing your top two scorers, of course
it hurts.
But that's where I think the national media is going to be. Look at them, their stock's dropping. There's an opportunity to buy low on this team and say, whoa, where'd these guys come from? It's because I think they're going to get healthy again. Now, I don't think they're a national championship team, but certainly a second weekend team.
What do you think of Texas Tech? They're starting to come on, and Toppin's a damn
10th ranked team in the country.
Yeah, really.
Well, no, I mean that's only been in the last couple of weeks. They started off the season very slow,
but
I think they also had injuries early.
They did.
Again, that's how a team comes together. This is one of the things I really hate about the committee. One of the biggest things used to be, how are you playing in your last 10? Because I don't care what you did in November and December.
You go out and get 15 wins because you played the Little Sisters of the Poor,
right.
And then you get in the conference schedule and you get thumped.
Or hey, you look at the reverse UConn.
Yeah,
Kansas.
But take the reverse UConn. UConn lost all 3 games out in Hawaii, and you could say, oh, are they that good? Are they whatever? But if they're coming on strong at the end, you go, whoa, this is a team that found their way,
right?
And especially where you see so many transfers coming in, freshmen playing,
transfers,
guys that
graduations,
There's so many moving parts to these teams, way more than you don't have the 4th and 5th year seniors that have been playing together for years.
Yeah, and to all my Gator fans out there in Gainesville this weekend, if you have a couple of extra tickets to the basketball game, please let me know. Contact me in my DMs because my man Trick is going to see his daughter this weekend and would like to go to the ball game. So he will support hard.
It's only
going
Texas
for the
A&M.
Gators.
You don't care. Let's be honest.
Number 12 versus number 3.
Well, it's not a big game at all.
All right, so you got Duke and Duke bets on a couple of games over the weekend.
We will. We'll put some videos.
We got to give plenty of credit to our man over here from West Virginia. My man has been coming out and been up our ass, rightfully so, of Duke and Duke bets and posting them. He's been a machine. Posted them to our social media, posted them. I got to give you the credit publicly. that you've been doing it. So keep it up, man.
I've been on fire with the posted bets on BetStamp, but I'm terrible on the video picks. I'm 1 and 2 on the video picks
16
with Trick.
and 7, right?
Yeah.
16 and 7?
16 and 7 since we started track documented.
By the way, 13
BetStamp.
and 10, which I thought was good, but
You
it's
made
not
a hell of a-
16 and 7.
No, you made a hell of a
Well,
comeback.
you went off to a 2-6 start, and you're now
Yes.
13 and 10. That's a pretty good run.
Yeah, I've been on a little hot. That's
we know
good.
you're peacocking a little bit.
A little bit. That's why we're the Duke and Duke today, because, it's what you do.
Well, we tried.
Commodities brokers.
Our boy Sean has been unbelievable for us in the social
On
media.
fire.
We tried to get build a statue trending, hashtag build a statue for my boy Phil. But so we'll get some Duke and Duke bets out there. Want to give a huge shout out to Brian Campbell, who won the Mexico Open last week. The reason I'm giving the shout out is I'm a homer. He comes from the Mike Small School of Golf at the University of Illinois. Second win for the Fighting Illini on the PGA Tour in 3 weeks. Because
Nice.
our boy Thomas Detry
Was
won
that
it.
not a kick off the tree or what?
Yeah, how about that? Trick and I've had a couple of those. I've had a couple balls come off houses back and play like that, but he converted, and the reaction by his girlfriend, I believe it's his girlfriend, not his wife. He's been a little bit of a journeyman the last 6-7 years.
Well, and now
very close.
I think he lost his Corn Ferry card, but now he gets the Masters invite. Now you get the PGA Championship invite. You get all these other exemptions.
He's now in. He's got a couple-year run here now to run and try to make some money.
If he does something with it, it'll be good.
Yeah, and he's a great kid. Great kid. Mike is a dear friend and has done an unbelievable job at the University of Illinois. So God bless you, Smalley. Keep it up. Your kids are killing it. Our NBA discussion will last 30 seconds. Did you see Luka put up the triple-double on the Mavs? And
Luka the hookah.
Fire of 1,000
That's pretty good.
suns.
Did you see he's catching flack for apparently liking to drink beer and smoke the hookah?
Yeah, he's European. That's
Right.
what they do.
That's what they do.
Have you seen pictures of Dirk Nowitzki?
Yeah, I was gonna
early
say,
in
look
his
at
career?
Dirk
I know.
Nowitzki. He was blasting out
Well,
his
that's why
mind.
his
half
new
the time.
nickname is the hookah.
Yeah, and do you see? You and I talked earlier, Trickster. The Luka was doing push-ups at center court before the game because they were saying that he's lazy and doesn't work out, and he was doing push-ups.
Now, but see, this is the stupidity again. Poorly run franchises. This guy, 5-time All-NBA, just took you to the NBA championship, and he's out of shape. What happens if he does wake up one day and want to be in shape?
Yeah.
You get rid of him for a bag. You didn't even go out to the market to say, hey, who wants this all-time generational talent? Who will give us this massive haul?
I think there was a suitcase slid under the table on that deal that no one knows about to the Lakers. Or from the Lakers.
From
to-
the Lakers.
Yeah, from the Lakers. I think there was a suitcase kind of kicked under the table.
I like the fact he was talking smack to Cuban on the court because that guy's an ass.
Well, that's when he comes out and hits the three.
You mean Rachel Maddow?
When he comes out, when Luka comes out, hits the three, turns to the bench and stares with laser
Vitriol. Nothing but vitriol coming out of that.
All right, so we gonna do any predictions on when he plays in Dallas the first time? What do you triple double?
Well, again, but see, it's what does he want to do, right? Because the bet there were apparently the Vegas books made a lot of money on that game because they were expecting him to score 40, and he goes, "Nah, we're gonna win, and I'm gonna make sure everybody else scores. I'm just gonna fill the stat sheet.
Yeah.
I don't need to come out and say it's about me. But if he wants to go out and drop a 50 bomb on him, no problem. If he goes, you know what? I'm just gonna get 20 assists tonight.
No
problem.
I probably should have sent it to Gentry. But did you see the meme on from Semi-Pro? You guys ever seen Semi-Pro where they've throwing the ball back and forth? That was what it looked like between him and LeBron on that one play. They went back and forth like 4 times, and then he collapsed on Luka, and finally LeBron hit the 3. And we don't watch NBA. I don't watch NBA. I just caught it on X. But
what was Will Ferrell's name in that?
Jackie Moon.
Jackie Moon.
There he is.
Let's get tropical.
Yes. I think they're on to our alley plan.
Yeah.
We got to change.
Father Pat.
Great movie.
That's good stuff.
Corn dogs, Jackie Moon. Corn dogs.
Yes.
You want to put the cigarette out? No, I like to smoke while I'm drinking.
All right. So again, to my Gator fans out there, Trick needs tickets. Hit us up. As we move into, we'll come back with the final segment of the day's show. It's kind of flown by, boys. I want to give a big shout out to our man Bob Hamer at Coastal Title for his love and support, and his beautiful
Ruda.
wife Ruda.
Yep.
And we'll be back. Please follow, like, and subscribe on all our social media. And we'll be back in just a minute with the Mike Scully Show. Thank you. Well, welcome back to the Mike Scully Show. It is time for final thoughts. And we're going to lead off with Hillbilly Network News. My man, Sean, what you got for me this week?
Well, normally
Fries in the bag.
I would do a fries in the bag, but it's gotten to the point that DC is such a cesspool. There's about a dozen people I could go off on, from Schumer to Schiff to Joy Reid to
Jasmine and Crockett?
Yeah, Jasmine. Yeah, that ghetto chick from
F.U.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm not going to do that. I want to, we've very much been keeping this show positive, so I might do it next week. But one thing I did want to shout out, I know Scully, you and I are big NCAA baseball fans, and I want to give a little shout out to my boys back home. WV Baseball started off 8-0, the best record they've had since 1966, following up on a super regional appearance last year. So
And that's a new head coach.
That's a new head coach, yeah. So things are looking really. And Ken Kendrick donated a ton of money, so we've got a new facility. We had a brand new stadium that came out like 4 years. It's beautiful, by the way. The Pirates Single A uses it, and so I'm really excited about West Virginia baseball. It's coming up. But the one thing I did want to share with you guys, I think Gentry's got the video. I don't know if he is able to put it up for you, but I've been spending some time in the office. Getting back to some of my roots, playing a little poker, and I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but everyone's starting to gear up for the World Series. And we got the Spring Classic, coming up in Hard Rock in 2 weeks. But there was a tournament this past weekend, WSOP tournament.
Is this where the guy flipped the table?
Yes. I don't know if Ginger's gonna be able to pull it up, but it's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Wait, he actually flipped the table?
Oh,
it's a 1,700 buy-in. So this is a real deal tournament. They're down to 65 players, and the guy bear crawled through the poker room and knocked over 3 tables. Like destroyed them. So the initial, I got it that night. I was down playing in our local, and it was just like, we're like, some guy lost a hand and lost his mind, but that was not the case. It was a spectator. They came to find out, but it took them. Now here's the thing that I found hilarious. It took them three hours to figure out
who had what.
Now I'm going to tell you guys that's BS, because I'm going to tell you right now, first of all, there's cameras everywhere, but as a player, especially as you're getting down towards the bubble on a tournament that big, because I think first place was almost $400,000, you know exactly how much was in front of you. So for them to take 3.5 hours, these guys were lying. There was a little capping going on, but I just wanted to share that. So that was my
okay. Well, good luck.
Not sure how that was positive, but It is funny.
Well, it was funny. I mean, did you see the
table flip over?
I don't know if you caught the whole video, but the guy dropping the WWE elbow.
Oh,
that was the best part.
I'm like, that's an elbow coming in hard.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's transition from Hillbilly Network News to my man in the Hammer Chronicles.
Eliot. So again, I got some video to share as well.
Oh God!
I've been looking forward to this all day.
I got some somewhat unfortunate news yesterday. So I spend the summer in a town called Avalon, New Jersey, and the town's very special to me. There's 2 main bars in that town. There's the Princeton and the Whitebriar. The Princeton, my dad has been the builder that has done every major renovation on that building over 20 years, and there have been several. And the Whitebriar, which is next door, is another one of the awesome night spots all summer long. And we got word yesterday that it has been sold to a private members club. So it is likely now going to be a private club. And the video that we got, that Patrick came up and visited me in 2019. The video we've got is the end of a 4-day bender. It is now Sunday night at midnight. And we get into a dance battle. Oh yeah. We go at it. And it was an absolute blast. And what it will miss from this video is Patrick, whoever recorded it, ended it when Patrick does a split in the middle of the dance floor.
This is true.
To Anthony Zarowski, the owner, to John and Bridget Tracy, Tim Quinn, Shay, Ian, Avery, Quez, Jess, Grace, Connor, all the DJs, Q and Ryan and the other bands that were there. Thank you guys for just so many amazing nights, amazing great times with friends. Just an absolute blast. And man, I'm going to miss that place.
I think
it was a good time.
We're going to have to put a poll up on X and who's the better dancer.
Again, I won with the split. Before that, Elliot had it.
I got to give my man. When I saw this split come out, it was just like, That's it. It's over.
He was
we don't
at
even-
that
Did you
point.
mic drop and
We
walk
don't.
away?
We don't even need to give. The result. Like you didn't need to poll the audience. You're like, yeah, dude.
It was a Hail Mary because he was winning before then for sure.
Well, I don't even think the faithful knows how good of a rapper he is.
He's my man. Sneaky athletic and has some skills.
What was that line you threw out last week, Scully?
NBA talent, middle school size, and high school speed.
That's trick.
This is true. This is all true.
All right, what sands my paper, brother?
What sands my paper? Well, unfortunately, this isn't positive. Sorry. Thus the name sands my paper. I am tired of all the news, not all, but most of the news networks. So today, Trump, our president, I'll leave it that way, our president met with the UK president or prime minister or whatever they call him, was coming in. So one network went from their panel and went to that to watch him show up, shake hands, kiss babies, go inside, and then we're going to come back and report it. So I flipped the channel to another channel, and they, instead of reporting the news, they are talking about Andrew Tate and how our president got him out of Romania for alleged crimes, which he may or may not have committed. I don't know. But much like Justin Tucker, we found out a little bit more on that it wasn't necessarily what we thought it was. Again, he may be guilty, he may not. But what sands my paper is I'm tired of all the news outlets slandering people, talking bad about people, as opposed to reporting the news. Just report the news. I'm tired of hearing you bash people and tell them how bad they are because he's not in your camp. Report the news. It was a big deal that you had the Prime Minister or the President of UK come. Apologies for not knowing which one it is. Come over to our country to meet with our president and try to figure out what we're going to do with Ukraine because they can't help themselves apparently. And instead of reporting the news, other channels are reporting how they're bashing people. And that just sands my paper. Report the news.
Well, I told you when you told me you were going to bring this up, when I go to the gym in the morning and I finish with doing some cardio, whether either walking on the treadmill or riding the bike, and you watch the three different TV stations and what Fox News reports compared to what's on CNN and what's on MSNBC is like, it's unbelievable.
But wait, hold on. Can I ask a question of my man that sands his paper? A year ago, when a different party was in office, if you went to Fox News or other non-affiliated,
See, you like how I left everything out? No, I didn't.
but that, do you think they stuck to the news, or do you think they were doing character attacks? Take what you just talked about, Jasmine Crockett. Again, I'm not a fan of hers, but you guys just ripped her apart.
But that was out of a meme. That wasn't a news reporting that. That was off of a meme of her saying something straight out of her mouth. But to answer your question, if our last president actually met with world leaders or actually talked to the press or actually came out of hiding, I would grant you that valid. The problem was he was MIA, so there was no news to report on him. So a lot of it was, where's Waldo? And that's what they were getting hit with. So to your point, it's a double-edged sword. Yes, they did put him down because he was hiding. Had he been out,
well, it's not just the president. It's every vice president, every other member of Congress. I don't disagree with anything you said in terms of I would prefer if people reported the news.
Correct. Just report the news.
And yet, for it to say, look at what they're doing, attacking whether it's Trump or J.D. Vance or Elon Musk or
they were
Andrew
talking
Tate.
about Andrew Tate.
Right, again,
he's not a politician.
But you take all these people that
he has nothing to do with politics, besides the fact that he doesn't align with their beliefs. That's the only thing.
Look at how everybody's ripping on someone like George Soros. Again, not a fan. Don't like him.
Yeah,
don't believe in it.
But tomato.
No, it's not.
Soros, what Soros does as far as giving money to judges to help them get elected,
but he's
not at all what Andrew Tate does. They're not even in the same league.
No, but he's not an elected person. He's not in politics. He's not.
No, but he has the power of electing people. That's the reason why his name gets brought up.
Okay.
This is Donald Trump's house, brother.
Andrew Tate's just a dude on a podcast yelling at the stars about how the only people that are unconditionally loved are dogs, babies, and women. If you're a man and you want to be loved, you better do something.
I can't tell you one thing that guy has done or why he is famous or why anybody knows him. I also don't know why he's in exile. So
yeah.
He's not in exile anymore. He's back in Florida.
That was the whole point.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's sans his paper. Well done, my friend. We're going to close today's show with a little bit of an honorarium to the great Gene Hackman, Coach Norman Dale, from one of my all-time favorite movies, Hoosiers. What was his famous line?
Don't get caught letting the paint dry.
Watching the paint dry. But and then Jimmy tells him, "I'll make it."
I'll make it.
So
Don't get caught watching the
the
paint dry.
number of movies that he's been in is incredible over the time.
Find his exact same measurements as our gym back in Hickory.
That's the old Butler gym.
Hinkle Fieldhouse.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get dressed for practice.
So very, very, very sad. It's a great loss for the United States. Great artist, and just loved watching him. So many movies that he's tied into. So rest in peace, Mr. Hackman.
R.I.P., buddy.
And that's all the Mike Scully Show for this week. We'll be back next week. Again, as I've always told you, we can't do it without you. Please follow, like, and subscribe on all our social media. And from my guys to you, have a great week. Be safe out there.
Yeah. It's the Mike Scully Show. Worldwide, we talk sports, life, and a little bit of politics. Till it ain't fun no more. Let's go. Big man in the booth, watch him set the tone. Got the fighting ill eye running through his bones. Big 10 trenches, yeah, he made his name. Now he running this game, put respect on his name. They take shots trying to knock him to the floor, but he's too big, too strong, boy, check the score. Took the hits, took the bruises, but he still stand tall. Like Phil with the wedge, Tiger lining up the ball. Yeah, it's the Mike Scully Show worldwide. Big man running the game, let them all testify. Hot takes, real talk, no lies. Swinging like a champ, we ain't ever getting shot. Shout out to Hebrew Hammer, dropping truth like a sermon. Every take he deliver, got him shook, make him learning. Tricks, picks from the Bama side. He call it like he see it, put the numbers to the grind. Hillbilly from West Virginia, always keep it trill. Moonshine wisdom, got that old school feel. We debate till the clock run out, then laugh at the politics, cause it ain't worth the bout. It's the Mike Scully Show worldwide, big man running the game.